Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we will learn how to interpret different summary measures of data, including the mean, range, variance, and standard deviation. To make these concepts practical and easy to understand, we will use a case study of two coffee shops, Breve Haven and Mug and Bean. This case study naturally connects measure of central tendency with measure of dispersion and creates curiosity about why the average alone is not enough. So let's begin. The case study is about daily sales of two coffee shops. So two coffee shops, Breve Haven and Mug and Bean, are located in the same city. Both recorded their daily sales in USD over a 7-day week. The owner wants to understand which shop has more consistent sales and which has more variable sales. So let's learn what is consistent sale. Consistent sales mean the sales figures remains relatively close to the average over time. There is low variability, so the range, variance, and standard deviation are all small. Whereas the variable sales mean the sales figures fluctuate significantly from day to day or month to month. There is high variability, so the range, variance, and standard deviation are or will be large. Okay, in this case study, we have data of two coffee shops, Breve Haven and Mug and Bean. Their daily sales in dollars from Monday to Sunday, that is 7-day sale. So Monday sale for Breve Haven is 500 USD and for Mug and Bean is 400. Similarly, for Tuesday, Breve Haven sale is of $520 and Mug and Bean is $550, and so on. This observation is first value will be x1, the second value will be x2, and so on. The last value will be x7. Similarly, for Mug and Bean, the first value is represented with y1, the second with y2, and so on. The last value with y7. So this is the actual data. That is two different data sets for two different coffee shops. Let's compare their sales. So here measure of dispersions are calculated. If you see, then Breve Haven mean is $511.43, whereas Mug and Bean average is $500. Range for Breve Haven is $40. That is the difference between maximum and minimum. And the range for the Mug and Bean is $400. Variance for Breve Haven is approximately $178.6, and for Mug and Bean is $17,142.9. But for variance, we will write the unit is dollar squared. Similarly, here the answer will be dollar squared, but standard deviation, we will represent the unit just in dollar, which is already written here. So I'll erase this one. Okay, let's interpret these results. These results are obtained from this data sets, which is about 2 coffee shops. So you need to calculate average for Brave Heaven and for Mug and Bean separately by using this data for Brave Heaven and using this data for Mug and Bean. Similarly, range is calculated from this data for Brave Heaven, and range is calculated for this data from this data for Mug and Bean. Similarly, variance is calculated and standard deviation is calculated. Okay, so let's interpret these measures. You have to calculate it using formulas, and formulas are discussed in the previous chapter, in the previous lecture. Now, first is the range. This is 400 for Mug and Bean, and this is the difference between the smallest and largest, and this is largest, whereas this is 400 is smallest. So 700 minus 400, no, sorry, the smallest one is 300. So 700 minus 300, this one is the minimum value and this one is the maximum value. So this gives us 400. So a large range is compared to this range for Brave Heaven, which is 40. So this is large. So a large range means sales are inconsistent and fluctuate widely. So Brave Heaven has much smaller range, so its daily sales stay close to each other and are more consistent. Okay, next comes standard deviation. Now see the standard deviation. So what does a lower standard deviation mean? Here Brave Heaven standard deviation is lower or smaller as compared to Mug and Bean. So low as standard deviation means sales stay close to the average, okay, and sales are our high standard deviation means sales are scattered far from the average, where average is this one. So this is close to average and this shows far from average. Close to average, if you see, then this is far from average. Okay, so Brave Heaven lower standard deviation means less risk and more predictable sales. It means Brave Heaven's daily sales don't change much from day to day. If today's sales are around $500, then tomorrow's sales are likely to be close to that amount. Why is Brave Heaven associated with stable cash flow? Because its sales are consistent. Like Brave Heaven sales, if you see, then these are their different sales. That is 1 week sale. These values are very close together. So income is predictable and budgeting is easier. So we can say that Mug and Bean is at high risk. because the average sales, that is mean, may be similar to Brief Haven. That is, there is a lower difference between these two values, the average of Mug and Bean and Brief Haven. The daily sales vary greatly, means their variation is too much. Day to day variation is too much. See, you can see the differences in the observations. Some days sales are extremely high, but some days they are very low. So this is risk. So mean tells us the center of the data. Here in this case, and while range and standard deviation tells us how reliable the average is. Lower range and lower standard deviation mean more consistent and predictable business, and high range and high standard deviation means more variable and risky business. So that is why measure of dispersion are important in addition to measure of central tendency. So this is the interpretation of the above data. Hope you got the points. Thank you and see you in the next lecture. Bye for now.